You have been conditioned to believe that the truth is a shield. You operate under the delusion that if you simply explain your side, if you provide context, if you lay out the logic of your actions, the other person will see reason. You believe that misunderstandings are merely gaps in data that can be filled with words. This is the lie that keeps you in chains. The moment you open your mouth to defend yourself, you have not entered a debate, you have entered a courtroom, and you have voluntarily walked into the defendant's box. By offering an explanation, you are implicitly agreeing to a hierarchy where the accuser is the judge and you are the subordinate begging for a verdict of not guilty. Analyze the geometry of the interaction. When someone accuses you, whether it is a partner, a boss, or a rival, they are casting a frame. They are asserting a reality where you are defective, wrong, or malicious. If you respond with a defense, you validate that frame. You accept their premise as worthy of engagement. You are telling them and everyone watching that their opinion of you matters more than your opinion of yourself. You think you are fighting for your reputation. In reality, you are negotiating the terms of your surrender. Consider the biological reality of the defensive state. Your heart rate spikes, your cortisol floods, your voice raises an octave, becoming thin and reedy. You speak faster, desperate to vomit out facts before you are interrupted. You look weak, you smell of anxiety. To a predator, this is not the behavior of an innocent man, it is the behavior of prey thrashing in a net. The guillotine of explanation is this: the more words you use, the sharper the blade becomes. Every sentence you add to your defense gives your accuser more surface area to attack. You offer them handles to grab onto. You say, "I didn't do X because of Y." Now they no longer have to prove you did X, they only have to argue that reason Y is invalid. You have shifted the burden of proof from them onto yourself. You have done their work for them. Machiavelli understood that power is not about being right. Power is about who controls the reality of the moment. The sovereign never explains, because the sovereign implies that his actions are self-evident. When you defend, you signal that your actions are not self-evident, that they require external validation to exist. This is why you feel drained after these interactions, even if you win the argument. You feel hollow because you had to lower yourself to the level of the accuser to survive. You traded your sovereignty for temporary relief from conflict. You paid the tax of submission. Stop looking for the perfect argument that will silence them. It does not exist. The trap is not in what you say. The trap is that you are speaking at all. You are trying to use logic to dismantle a power move. It is like bringing a calculator to a knife fight. You must understand that the person attacking you is not looking for clarity. They are looking for compliance. Your defense is the white flag that tells them their strategy is working. As long as you are explaining, you are dancing. And as long as you are dancing, they own the music. To flip the power, you must first kill the instinct that screams at you to set the record straight. You must be willing to let them be wrong about you. You must look at the guillotine, see the trap, and refuse to put your neck on the block. You labor under the delusion that human interaction is an exchange of information. It is not. It is an exchange of status. When an accusation is launched at you, it is never a standalone event. It is a precise, calculated stress test of your psychological perimeter. To understand why you consistently fail this test, you must strip away the morality of the situation and look at the mechanics of the aggression. An accusation is a dominance algorithm. The person accusing you, be it a romantic partner claiming you don't care or a superior claiming you are incompetent, is not describing reality. They are attempting to overwrite reality. They are projecting a frame where they are the high-status arbiter of truth and you are the low-status subject requiring correction. Why does this work on you? Why does a few words cause your stomach to drop and your mind to race? Because you are still operating on outdated evolutionary software. For thousands of years, to be accused by the tribe meant death. If the group decided you were a liability, you were exiled to starve or be eaten. Your brain interprets a modern verbal attack as a literal threat to your survival. The accuser knows this, consciously or instinctively. They are hacking your amygdala to bypass your logic. They are utilizing a mechanism I call the insecurity hook. Every accusation carries a payload. The surface payload is the specific complaint. You were late, you were rude, but the deep payload is the implication that you are defective. They target your specific insecurities. If you fear being seen as lazy, they accuse you of negligence. If you fear being seen as selfish, they accuse you of malice. When you defend yourself, you are not responding to the surface complaint. You are reacting to the deep payload. You are screaming, "I am not defective. Please believe I am good." This confirms to the predator that the hook has set. They have found the gap in your armor. By reacting emotionally, you provide them with the fuel they need to sustain the conflict. You must understand, the accuser does not want a solution. If you solve the problem, the interaction ends and their power over you dissipates. They want the process. They want the friction. They want to see you dance. The architecture of the accusation relies on a concept called the burden shifting. In a sovereign state, he who asserts must prove. In the psychological trap you live in, the accuser asserts and you must disprove. This is an impossible geometry. It is impossible to prove a negative. If someone says, "You don't respect me," and you list 10 ways you have shown respect, they will simply say, "But you didn't mean it." The goalposts move because the goal was never to score. The goal was to make you run. You are being engaged in a war of attrition. They are spending pennies of energy to force you to spend dollars of emotion. It is an asymmetric trade. They say 5 words, you speak 5 paragraphs. They remain calm, you become frantic. This is not a conversation. It is a resource extraction. They are mining you for validation, for status, and for the feeling of control that their own pathetic lives lack. As long as you view the accusation as a problem to be solved rather than a tactic to be neutralized, you will remain their battery. You must stop listening to the words and start seeing the weapon. The accusation is not a question, it is a leash, and you have been holding the other end, waiting for them to pull.
You assume that the people attacking you operate with the same software you do. You believe they want resolution. You project your own desire for harmony onto entities that thrive on chaos. This projection is fatal. To stop the bleeding, you must taxonomize the enemy. You are not dealing with difficult people. You're dealing with specific predatory archetypes that have evolved to harvest your energy through the mechanism of accusation. They are not looking for truth. They are looking for food. There are 3 primary species of validation predators you will encounter in the wild. You must learn to spot them before they open their mouths. 1. The high priest of guilt, the moralizer. This predator operates from a fabricated moral high ground. They frame every interaction as a judgment on your character. Their accusations are rarely about competence, they are about goodness. If you loved me, you would have. A real man wouldn't need to be asked to. I'm just disappointed in your values. They weaponize shame. When you defend yourself against the high priest, you are walking into their temple. You are saying, "No, please, I am good, look at my deeds." You have already lost. You have accepted them as the arbiter of morality. They feed on your desperate need to be seen as a good person. As long as you are pleading your case, they remain the god of your reality. The fragile devourer, the professional victim. This is the most insidious archetype. They attack you by claiming you have hurt them. They provoke you with passive aggression, subtle digs, or sabotage. The moment you snap and respond, or even calmly defend yourself, they collapse into exaggerated woundedness. "I can't believe you're attacking me when I'm having such a hard time. You're always so aggressive with me." This is the Darvo maneuver, Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender in real time. If you defend yourself against the fragile devourer, you look like a bully. They want you to explain yourself so they can twist your words into further evidence of your cruelty. They feed on your pity and your fear of causing harm. They are black holes. No amount of apology or explanation will ever fill them because their power comes from being the victim, not from being healed. The third species is the procedural sadist, the bureaucratic tyrant. Often found in the workplace or legal systems, this predator uses structure as a weapon. They don't attack your character or your feelings, they attack your process. They demand endless justification for every minor decision. Walk me through your logic here. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Did you follow the proper protocol for this interaction? They cloak their dominance plays in the language of efficiency or policy. When you defend yourself here, you are providing them with data. They are not listening to your logic to understand it. They are listening to find a technical flaw they can exploit to assert dominance. They feed on your exhaustion. They want to bury you in the paperwork of your own defense until you submit just to make it stop. The common thread. Do not be fooled by their different masks. The high priest, the fragile devourer, and the procedural sadist all share the same biological objective, the extraction of reaction. They are incapable of generating their own self-worth or power. They must siphon it from you. When you defend yourself, you are feeding the beast. You are pouring your emotional resources into a cup with no bottom. Think back to your last 5 arguments. Which archetype were you fighting? Did your defense change their mind, or did it simply prolong the engagement until you were drained and they felt powerful? You were not having a conversation. You were being hunted. And by explaining yourself, you smeared yourself with blood and jumped into the water.
You cling to the fantasy that justice is a natural law of the universe. You believe that if you are innocent, the truth will inevitably rise to the surface like oil in water. History proves you wrong. The annals of power are paved with the bones of men who were right, yet destroyed because they believed their innocence was a shield. It is not. Innocence is merely a circumstance. Without power, it is irrelevant. Look at the mechanics of the public trial. Whether it is a king facing a tribunal or you facing a rumor in the office break room, the moment a leader begins to justify his actions to the mob, he ceases to be a leader. He becomes a supplicant. Consider the fall of Louis XVI. A man who spent his final years trying to explain, to compromise, to prove his benevolence to a populace that had already smelled blood. He believed that if he could just show them his good intentions, they would spare him. He explained his way right to the guillotine. Now contrast this with the silence of the true sovereign. The predator who does not explain why he hunts, the general who does not apologize for the casualty count. Psychologically, this is known as the backfire effect. When you present evidence to counter a false belief held by an accuser, you do not convince them, you entrench them. Your very attempt to defend yourself signals that the accusation is significant enough to warrant a response. You elevate the lie by engaging with it. Furthermore, you trigger the taint of the defendant. Human beings are hardwired to associate defense with guilt. In the primitive brain, the alpha does not flinch. If you are flinching, if you are producing long-winded emails explaining your side, the observer's brain registers weakness and guilt simultaneously. Even if your facts are perfect, your behavior is incriminating. Machiavelli warned that a prince must avoid being hated or despised. Nothing makes a man more despised than the appearance of vacillation and insecurity. When you defend yourself, you look unsure. You look as if you are asking permission to exist. History does not remember the specific arguments of the defeated. It does not record the context or the nuance that the loser tried so desperately to articulate. It records only who held the frame and who collapsed under it. You are terrified of being misunderstood. You must kill this fear. Being understood is a luxury for children. Being respected is the necessity of men. When you try to correct the record, you're appealing to the court of public opinion. You are assuming the jury is impartial, but in the real world, the jury is rigged, the judge is your enemy, and the gallery is hoping for a hanging. By defending yourself, you are legitimizing a court that has no authority over you unless you grant it. You are respecting the process of your own destruction. Stop trying to be the good man who is vindicated in the end. That is a movie script. In the real world, the good man who explains himself is crushed by the bad man who imposes his will without a word. The graveyard of the justified is full. Do not add your name to the list.
You now understand the trap. The question is, how do you escape it when the jaws are already closing? You do not struggle. You do not explain. You employ two specific tactical maneuvers that short-circuit the predator's loop: the offensive silence and the Machiavellian pivot. 1. The offensive silence, the void. Most men are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it with nervous laughter, apologies, or explanations. The predator relies on this. They expect their accusation to trigger a verbal vomit of defense. You will give them the opposite. When the accusation lands, do not speak. Look at them. Hold eye contact. Keep your face completely relaxed. No frowning, no shock, no anger. Just neutral observation. Count to 4 in your head. In those 4 seconds, the dynamic shifts. The accuser waits for the hit of dopamine your reaction usually provides. When it doesn't come, they panic. Their brain screams that the attack failed. Often they will start speaking again to fill the void, stuttering, clarifying, or backtracking. They will expose their own insecurity. Silence is not passive. It is an active rejection of their frame. It communicates, your words are not significant enough to warrant a reaction. 2. The Machiavellian pivot, the counter-interrogation. If you must speak, never answer the accusation. Instead, you must attack the structure of the accusation itself. You do not step into the witness box. You step up to the bench and demand to know why the trial is happening. You answer a statement with a question that questions their authority or stability. The source check. Accuser. Everyone thinks you're difficult to work with. You. Who is everyone specifically? Analysis. You force them to provide data they don't have. They will crumble into vagueness. The frame check. Accuser. Why did you do that? It was incredibly selfish. You. You seem very emotional right now. Are you okay to have this conversation? Analysis. You ignore the content, selfish, and attack the delivery, emotional. You are now the rational adult. They are the hysterical child. You have stolen the high ground. The intent check. Accuser. I can't believe you missed the deadline. You. What is your goal with this conversation right now? Analysis. You strip the mask off the interaction. You force them to admit they just want to complain or force them to propose a solution. The sovereign agreement. Sometimes the most brutal way to destroy an accusation is to agree with the fact, but reject the shame. This is the so what nuclear option. Accuser. You are arrogant. You. I am. What's your point? Accuser. You didn't ask for my permission. Correct? I didn't. By agreeing, you remove the resistance. You are not fighting their reality. You are simply showing them that their reality has no power to hurt you. You effectively say, yes, I did that, and I sleep soundly. Your judgment of it is irrelevant. This is the Machiavellian flip. You take the energy they throw at you, the anger, the blame, the shame, and you step aside, letting them fall flat on their face. You do not block the punch, you let them swing at a ghost. These tactics require ice in your veins. They will feel unnatural at first because you are fighting a lifetime of conditioning. But observe the result. Watch how quickly the predator deflates when they realize you are no longer playing their game.
You have taken their weapon and unloaded it. Now, you must ensure you never pick it up again.
The tactics I have given you, the silence, the pivot, the agreement, are useless if you do not fundamentally alter the machine running them. You can memorize the lines, but if your pulse races and your eyes dart with fear when you say them, the predator will smell the rot underneath. To wield these weapons effectively, the person you are right now must cease to exist. You are currently operating as the defendant. This identity was constructed in your childhood. It is the part of you that learned that survival depended on being understood, being good, and avoiding the displeasure of authority figures. The defendant believes that his value is determined by the consensus of others. If the tribe says he is bad, he is bad. This identity is a liability. In the arena of power, the defendant is walking meat. You must initiate a controlled execution of this persona. You must replace it with the sovereign. The sovereign operates on a completely different psychological architecture, the internal locus of reality. The defendant asks, "Do they believe I am worthy?" The sovereign asks, "Do I approve of my own actions?" This shift is violent. It requires you to accept a terrifying truth. You are the only judge that matters. When a sovereign is accused, he does not feel a sting to his self-worth, because his self-worth is not located in the hands of the accuser. It is locked in a vault that only he can open. If someone calls a sovereign stupid, it is as irrelevant as someone calling him purple. He checks his internal reality, sees that he is not stupid, and dismisses the external noise as a data error. To kill the defendant, you must starve him. Every time you feel the urge to explain yourself, you are feeding him. Every time you apologize when you have done nothing wrong to keep the peace, you are feeding him. Every time you ask, "Does this make sense?" you are feeding him. You must endure the withdrawal symptoms of validation addiction. When you stop defending yourself, you will feel a void. You will feel mean. You will feel cold. Your brain will scream that you are losing connection with others. Good. That connection was a chain. The coldness you feel is the temperature of the deep ocean where the predators cannot follow. You are hardening. You are building a callus over the exposed nerve that they have been poking for years. This transformation will cost you. People who loved the defendant because he was easy to manipulate, because he was compliant, because he was weak, will hate the sovereign. They will say you have changed. They will say you are distant. They will try to ramp up their attacks to drag the defendant back out of the grave. Do not resurrect him. Let them scream at the stone walls of your new identity. Let them exhaust themselves trying to find the handle that used to be there. It is gone. You are no longer a participant in their courtroom. You are a separate nation-state. You observe their laws, but you do not answer to them. You negotiate treaties, but you do not beg for existence. The death of the defendant is the birth of your power.
I must offer you a final, brutal warning. If you apply what I have taught you, your life will not become easier in the way you understand the word. It will become quieter, colder, and significantly more lonely. When you stop defending yourself, you break the social contract of the herd. The herd bonds through shared weakness and mutual justification. They constantly reassure each other that they are good people doing their best. When you refuse to participate in this ritual, when you stand silent in the face of accusation, you become a mirror. They look at you and see their own insecurity reflected back. They will not like what they see. You will lose friends. You may lose partners. You will certainly alienate colleagues who relied on your compliance to feel powerful. They will label you as arrogant, difficult, or emotionally unavailable. Let them. Do not view this as a loss. View it as a filtration system. You are shaking the tree. The rotten fruit is hitting the ground. The people who fall away were never attached to you. They were attached to your submission. They were attached to the handle you offered them. By removing the handle, you are removing the parasites. You are entering a tier of existence where very few men reside. The air is thinner here. There is no applause. There is no constant reassurance that you are doing the right thing. There is only the silence of your own judgment and the weight of your own consequences. Most men would rather be a slave in a warm room than a king in the cold. They would rather apologize for sins they didn't commit just to keep the peace. They would rather be liked than be respected. You must decide right now what you are. If you want comfort, if you want to be told that you are enough, if you want to be coddled, close this video. Go back to the herd. Apologize to your master. Enjoy your cage. But if you are ready to kill the defendant, if you are ready to accept the burden of total sovereignty, if you are ready to operate in the cold light of reality where no explanation is required, then you belong here. I do not ask for likes. I do not ask for support. I ask for alignment. Click the subscribe button only if you are enlisting. This is not entertainment. This is a briefing for the few who are awake. Welcome to the silence.